On stage, we have Amanda Murphy. Please give it up for Amanda.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be standing on the stage talking to all of you today. I will be talking a little bit about animal rights activism. To introduce myself, my name is Amanda Murphy. I also go on social medias as Gym City Vegan. I have been vegan for about 4.5 years, active as an activist for 4 years. I've done all types of activism, which I'm going to go over several forms in my speech today. Before we get started, could I get a judgment of the audience today? How many of you are non-vegan? Enjoying our wonderful food today? I see some hands. Fantastic. I'm so glad you're here to experience how amazing vegan food can be. And how many vegans do we have here today? I'm assuming it's the rest of you that are here. Now, to go one step further, may I see how many activists, vegan animal rights activists, do we have here today? Awesome, I'm seeing hands, that's fantastic. So, a little about me with my vegan journey. I initially was plant-based for health reasons. Didn't really know, I was in the cognitive dissonance with everyone else, but a lot of people before they come to veganism experience. I actually became an ethical vegan at a dairy farm of all places. I have a tattoo of her. She's tag number 130 on my forearm. And from that day, June 17th of 2017, my life will never be the same, and it hasn't been. So I started activism about 4 years ago. I started with Mercy for Animals leafleting in Columbus during an event. Honestly, I don't remember. It was kind of a blur which event it was. I just remember what I was doing and who it was with. And I was like, this is great because I'm giving the animals a voice. I'm helping them be seen in a society where the animals are not seen as beings, they're seen as a commodity. So with activism, there is your basic events like protests. This can include circuses, zoos, fur and leather protests, aquariums, and rodeos, which we actually have a rodeo protest if they don't move it next month, and we'd love to have you come. In addition, there are also demonstrations that we perform on the street even. I'm an organizer with Anonymous for the Voiceless. We have a tent that way if you would like any information or like to come get more information about our organization or volunteer with us. We would love to talk to you. And what AV does is they do street activism where we actually show the bystanders the footage of what happens in slaughterhouses and what happens with standard practice in the animal agriculture industry. Then we have conversations with people, asking them questions about how they're feeling about it and asking how they can help avoid causing that pain. Other demonstrations can include virtual reality through iAnimal. I was hoping to have some VR goggles today, but unfortunately we couldn't. Had some technical difficulties with that. In addition, there are marches, different types of marches that you can participate in. I've been part of two. I helped organize the 2018 Columbus Official Animal Rights March that we had a couple years ago in Columbus. I also marched in the Official Animal Rights March in Toronto, Canada. And then there's also the Midwest March for the Animals that we did over in Chicago. But there's all sorts of types. There's actually a march in Berkeley at the end of the month at the Animal Liberation Conference. There's also table events, like we're doing today with AV, making people aware, whether you're vegan or not, about our message, getting active for the animals, because we believe that veganism itself is a social justice movement. It is an ethical stance against the exploitation of animals. And of course with the Veg Fest that we do, but also I've seen table events at things like schools, trying to get the cafeteria changed a little bit to have more plant-based options on the menu, especially because there are children that are vegan that deserve to have their own options at the school so they don't feel like an outsider just because they eat a little differently. And then there's also ways that you can help in the community with feeding the community with vegan meals. Another way that you can help with that is like leafleting at the event. Kind Meals in Columbus does that. I'm trying to actually get a grassroots effort off for here locally in Dayton called Benevolent Bowls. I'm working to get that going soon as well. And then yesterday, actually, I was down in Cincinnati and I was doing a PETA event where we were actually passing out Beyond Brats during the Cincinnati Oktoberfest. And we actually had a lot of good feedback from everyone, because like there were a lot of people that didn't know what Beyond was, that it was a company, that it was a plant-based company, and that their products are pretty tasty. Leafleting I kind of mentioned, and that can probably happen at any event. So a leaflet is a pamphlet or a flyer or something that can be given to someone. So if you're talking to someone, you pass it out to them, or you have it at a table. Then there are things like sit-ins. You might see them sometimes in Starbucks, because there's a lot of vegans who are trying to do sit-ins to eliminate the upcharge for non-vegan milks. You know, we feel like we shouldn't have to pay 70 cents for soy milk or oat milk when the plight of the animals of what happens with dairy milk, you know, we're paying, you know, we have to pay extra for not causing suffering to animals. In addition, you can also call and email organizations to try and increase their vegan options, adding dairy sour cream. I was actually talking to someone at our table today. She was talking about Taco Bell, and you know, like me, if I have to get Taco Bell, it's usually a bean burrito with red sauce, no cheese or anything. But she was like, well, sometimes I get sour cream on it. And I was like, well, that's where you can actually call or email that company and say, hey, a vegan option would be amazing. Also, there are things called disruptions, and you might have seen, sometimes those are looked at a little more of like militant vegans. They go into stores, hotels to like kind of protest their support for something. An experience that I had recently, actually, I went to Chicago during a fur protest that I was doing, and I actually did a disruption at a Millennium Hotels, because Millennium actually funds and finances the Alaska Iditarod dog races. So we were protesting for them to take away their funding for them. So another way that's a little harder, it's a visual. So the Save Movement is a great organization that is all over the world. And what they do at a visual is, I've done them at JBS in Louisville, as well as Cleveland Animal Save has them in the Cleveland area at Case Farms. We actually have a pig slaughterhouse here in Xenia. Unfortunately, we can't do visuals though, because we don't have sidewalks to be able to safely protest. But you're there to bear witness the experience that the animal is having, being transported in huge steel trucks in the heat with no food or water, letting themselves go all over all of the other animals, and you see the pain and the fear in their eyes as they go to slaughter. So one of the ways that we can get the information out there is by going live, doing pictures, things like that, and sharing on social media to help make people aware that this is what's happening. When you eat a pork chop, this is what you're happening. This is your bacon right here. And then there's also like National Animal Rights Day, which they do like kind of a visual with pictures. Sometimes they use animals themselves just to make that aware, the community aware. Then there's a form called Activism. This can encompass varying different degrees of activism, including painting, music and singing, chalking, stickering, jewelry making, apparel, and decals. So with a lot of that, like a few weeks ago, we were doing some chalktivism at Levitt Pavilion. And so you're just spreading the vegan message, like compassionate messages for people to see as they're walking by. So the more people are seeing it, any kind of a message, you know, the better they are to make that connection. In addition to that, as you become active, you get interested in attending conferences. And these are conferences that can help you be a better activist and we'll learn different ways to be able to assist the community with the activism opportunities. A couple, just to mention, is the Animal Liberation Conference and the Animal Rights Conference. And actually, the Animal Liberation Conference is happening at the end of this month. Unfortunately, I can't go. I have a ticket, but I couldn't go. And they're actually having a march as well, which is something I mentioned before. Once you've done all that activism, or however much activism that you would like, then you can become a mentor. And this is another great way. You can be a mentor to help people become vegan and like find different ways for them to overcome their barriers to eating and living a vegan lifestyle. Finding alternatives for them to swap. Or you can become an activist organizer, as I myself am as well. I actually volunteer with animal activism mentorship. And we literally do one-on-one with vegans who are interested in getting active. And with me having 4 years experience and all these different types of activism under my belt, I enjoy helping others to spread the word on getting the awareness out there for the animals. There are also cleanup efforts. So you can leaflet as well as you're doing this. I did start a local organization, well, it's not an organization, it's just kind of grassroots, called Conscious Community Cleanup. And the goal is to have people clean up their communities as they're walking. So if you're taking a walk down the street and you see trash, it's just picking that up. There's also Sea Shepherd. They do a lot of sea cleanup and tabling events too. They do other stuff too. You can watch a documentary called Seaspiracy, and that actually that will give you additional information. Then there is also the rescue animals that you can do volunteering at sanctuaries. We have one of our local Ohio sanctuaries, Foreverland Farm, that will be speaking later, and they have a table right over there. I am one of their volunteers.
Can I get a cat?
As well as transport. So many animals that are rescued will have to have a home. So when we find a home, getting them to that home safely is really important. And I also have experience with transport. I do that all the time for some of our local Ohio sanctuaries. And then a while back I had worked with the Dayton House Rabbit Society, and we had rescued some domesticated rabbits that were let out into the wild, which is not right. Like, they can't survive.
No.
So another thing that you can do too, if you don't want to work directly with a big organization, a couple years ago, Antioch College had a farm to table. They were using 9 lambs as lawnmowers, and they were doing farm to table where they were going to be slaughtering the animals at the end of the summer to feed the students. And so I worked with a lot of vegan activists all over the state, and we got several protests where we were trying to save them. This is just one of the signs that I found that we had there. So letting people know that this is a living being, it's not an item, it's not a commodity. So even if you just put something together yourself, as long as it's something that you can find passion in and speak up for the animals, they deserve to have that moment.
Yes.
So being a vegan, one of the things, and an activist, one of the biggest things I was thinking about the other day are the items in my car. So I actually never leave my house without chalk. My megaphone that I brought to show you off, because I'm very proud of my megaphone. Leaflets, stickers. I have a crate for transport in my trunk if needed. And I have about 3 pairs of muck boots that I've accumulated of helping all of my sanctuary friends out. And the animals are grateful for and appreciative because they don't have to die in any way that you can make it the community aware. And I personally, for 32 years, ate animals thinking it was normal, natural, and necessary until I educated myself and decided that my 15 minutes of taste pleasure was not worth the life of an animal or to wear them. And they're not used for entertainment, because once I really started to connect with animals on that level, it hurt my heart and I could no longer support that. I'm going to end my speech before questions and answers with a quote from Albert Einstein. It's one of my favorite quotes. Those who have the privilege to know have the duty to act. And that can encompass all forms of any kind of activism, but I truly hold that true to veganism, because once we know better, we can do better. And I don't know, I have a few minutes left. Are there any questions that anyone has for me before I go? All right, well, thank you all so much. I'm so grateful for all of you being here today. I'm a proud Daytonian. I'm so thankful that we're able to put on an event like this, and Devis with Sprouting Dreams as well for like kickstarting this up a couple years ago. So thank you all. Enjoy the rest of the festival.
Okay, thanks Amanda.